Phuket banking on 129,000 arrivals. Phuket COVID restrictions extended. Foreigners breaking order face expulsion. And a word about being vaccinated in Thailand. I'm Kieran Mack and you're listening to the Thai Expat Daily Show. Phuket banking on 129,000 arrivals. Now this is a story out of the Bangkok Post this morning. Phuket is set to welcome 129,000 international tourists in the first 3 months of the quarantine-free program, while the government will team up with the airlines to subsidise 100,000 one-way domestic air tickets, says the Tourist Authority of Thailand. TAT Governor Yuttasak Supasorn said the reopening initiative, Phuket Sandbox, is expected to attract 30 to 40,000 tourists per month, with long-haul markets being the main target. He said 7-day tour packages in Phuket will cost around 150,000 to 200,000 baht per person, which is significantly higher than average spending of around 50,000 baht per trip prior to the outbreak. Tourists will have to board a direct flight to the island to ensure safety, but if time slots at the airport are fully booked, tourists can transit at Bangkok Airport via a sealed route. Tat also discussed Mr. Yuttasak said tourism would gear up towards this year's tourism goal of 3 to 4 million visitors in the fourth quarter and another 9 areas in the reopening plan. The agency plans to propose standard operating procedures of entry for international arrivals, such as procedures of COVID-19 testing and guidelines for sealed routes to the Centre for Economic Situation Administration for approval within this month. And the SOP, once the SOP is approved and once there is an official announcement in the Royal Gazette, tour operators can proceed with sales and marketing. TAT also had to work on supply development and vaccine plans, including risk management in the case of emergency. And the article just goes on about that. So this is the Phuket model that's has been penciled in to start July 1st. We are now on the 13th of May, so we're 6 weeks away. And let's be honest, anybody thinking this is going to really happen? I mean, firstly, where are they getting the 30 to 40,000 travellers each month? And this price of 150 to 200,000 per person. So this, 200,000 per person is 5,000 euro. So are they really thinking that a couple flying to Phuket for 7 days are going to spend 10,000 euros for a trip? I mean, that's just ludicrous. I mean, it's daydreaming kind of stuff, and I just don't understand where it's coming from. This Phuket model that they've suddenly rolled out, we're starting to see a clearer picture of it, and it certainly isn't what was promised a few months ago. It's looking like it's a very controlled thing. Tourists will only have limited hotels to choose from. It's going to be overly expensive. I mean, I think a lot of us thought it was going to be, as long as you're vaccinated, you had a COVID-free test, you could fly from your home country to Phuket. You'd have to spend 7 days in Phuket, and after that you could leave and go, about your business and visit other areas. But this is very restrictive and, as I said, very, very expensive. Also, I think a lot of us thought, as expats here, we would have the ability to fly home, get our vaccine in our home country, and then fly back without having to do quarantine. But that seems to all be gone as well. And they're talking about only chartered flights. I don't know. I think a lot of people and a lot of businesses in Phuket are going to be very disappointed with this, because I don't think this is what was promised. But we'll keep an eye on the story and we'll see what the actual rules and regulations will be. But with 6 weeks to go, you would think they'd start to have something to give to travel agents in Europe and around the world so they can start to market this. I don't know. But what do you think? Do you think Phuket's really going to open on July 1st or not? Leave your comments down below. Now, the next story was a late breaking story yesterday, but it was about Phuket's COVID restrictions being extended. And however, there is a little add-on to that foreigners breaking order face expulsion. And that means deportation. The raft of restrictions in effect across Phuket to prevent the spread of COVID-19 has been extended through to May 31st under a new provincial order issued May 12th. The order included a warning that foreigners failing to observe the restrictions in place regarding gatherings may be expelled from the country. The new 5-page provincial order was published yesterday. The order, dated as issued and signed by the Phuket governor, is marked to come into effect May 13th, which is today. The order extended the previous restriction already in place. However, the new order now includes a provision expressly banning any people from visiting any other person's home for the purpose of gathering. The new order does not stipulate how many people gathering at a private home was to be deemed illegal. Section 5 of the previous order regarding social activities mandated, for social activities, all people must refrain from gathering for celebrations such as birthday parties, welcome or farewell parties, or others, except traditional events such as funerals, weddings, or ordination. If the event cannot be postponed, the organizer must strictly follow the disease control measures to reduce the risk of spreading the disease. Section 5 of the new order is now separated into Section 5.1 and .2. Section 5.1 features the exact same wording as the previous order, with Section 5.2 clearly states, eating, drinking, or celebrating among family at a house or other kind of accommodation must not include outsiders. Gathering to do in any activity that are at a risk of spreading infection must be prohibited. If those who fail to comply with the measures are foreigners, their permission of being granted to remain in the kingdom under the Immigration Act will be taken into consideration. The revised order comes in after 2 foreigners were fined 6,000 baht. I think we went through that last week, and then it just continues to go on. So basically, we can go through the restrictions that are there right now. So as you see, there's the temporary closures of all the list of buildings on the left hand side, what isn't permitted down the center, and then open with conditions. It also discusses about the checkpoints. Now, what I was told and what I had read was that as of May 15th, you had to have either a COVID vaccination certificate or a COVID PCR test. And if you didn't have either, you would have to home quarantine for 14 days. Now, they seem to not have rolled that out, and they seem to be still sticking with the rapid antigen test as you come into Phuket, either at the checkpoint or at the airport. And it still seems to be 500 baht for foreigners and free for Thai people. Again, why are foreigners being charged? It seems like it's par for the course these days, guys. But anyway, just a warning to everyone. I mean, these restrictions, though, I mean, let's be honest, in Europe, there's a lot of places have similar restrictions that you can't have people over to your homes and you can't have gatherings, etc. So, I mean, it's not much different than, parts of Europe and America, during the height of the pandemic. So just beware so that, you don't get in trouble. Finally, just a quick word about vaccination and vaccines in Thailand. As we currently know, there are 2 vaccines available, Sinovac from China and AstraZeneca from the UK. And at present, Sinovac's the one being used. Now, there's been a lot of talk whether or not foreigners are going to get the vaccine in Thailand. It was only 2 weeks ago that we heard from the government expressly saying that vaccines were for all, and everybody, resident and citizen, would be offered a vaccine in Thailand. Now, that was 2 weeks ago. And what has happened in the next 2 weeks? Well, nothing from what I can tell. And to be quite honest, things seem to be kind of getting a little worse rather than better. Now, one thing that I did notice and I have seen is that some people have been managed to get reservations, and they seem to be people over 60, maybe with some pre-existing conditions, and they have been able to actually get appointments for vaccination, which is great. And I really do hope they get their vaccinations, and that's important. But I have been doing some testing. So if you live in the Phuket or the Phang area, hospitality workers have been vaccinated over the last 6 weeks. Now, originally, hospitality workers were vaccinated. Foreigners were excluded and expressly told only Thai people. Now, just today, they've announced a second round for people who didn't get vaccinated. So I inquired whether or not this would include foreigners working in the hotel. And I'm in Phang province. So, and I was expressly told again, no foreigners allowed to get the vaccine. Straight from the local public health. So whatever the government seem to be saying, it seems to be either just for the sake of saying it and no actual SOPs sent down to the different provincial health departments to say, yes, foreigners are to get vaccine, make sure you're giving it to them, and there's no reason why they can't get it. And then, for example, in Phuket, I saw yesterday that they are allowing hospitality workers who are foreigners to get the vaccination, and they can start to register between today, I think, and they have about a week. And the funniest little caveat was at the end of it was that you could get vaccinated as long as you had at least 6 months left on your visa or work permit. So if you had 5 months left, you weren't entitled to get the vaccination, which is the strangest thing I've ever seen, because all of us who work here, we're always on a yearly visa, and we just go each year and we renew it. The same with our work permit. It's a yearly, it's normally tied around the same date, and you go and you renew both at the same time. And that's the normal standard here. There's no well, maybe there is a 2-year visa. It depends if you do, a BOI visa or something. But normally it's a 1-year extension of stay, and everybody goes every year, whether you're in a retirement visa or a marriage visa or you have a non-B working visa. You go for your extension every year. So why suddenly are they telling people if you don't have 6 months left, you can't get the vaccination? I didn't know that COVID, was that specific, that if if your visa is less than 6 months, I won't infect you. I didn't know it worked like that. So it seems like there's some bizarre standards being set up, and it seems like it's to try stop foreigners, in my opinion, getting the vaccine. Again, Phuket are rolling out for over 60s, and there is no way whatsoever for over 60s foreigners to apply. I sent a message to the public health in Phuket. I asked, what about foreigners? I mean, I'm not over 60, but I do know people who are, and I feel that if they want to get the vaccine, they should be allowed to get the vaccine. They're in the group. And there is no reply, just quietness from people. And there seems to be this thing of trying to make up reasons why they can't. Again, in Bangkok now, they're talking about having mass vaccination center where you can just walk in without an appointment. And the truth, everybody wants to know, well, can a foreigner just walk in without an appointment and get the vaccination? And there still seems to be no answer to any of that. So there's lots of talk and chatter from spokespeople and the government, but there seems to be very, very, very little action on the provincial level. So I'm not really sure where that's leaving us, because as far as I'm concerned right now, although they may talk, there is zero action, and zero action to me means the same policy exists: no vaccines for foreigners. And that's how I see it right now. Let me know what you think down in the comments section. Do you think the government are sincere about giving us vaccines, or do you think it's just a game and they're just saying things to get us to shut up? Love to know what you think down below. Thanks for tuning in today. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, and don't forget to leave us a 5-star rating. We are available on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you like to listen to your podcasts. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you tomorrow.